Hello everyone, so today we are going to learn about Git and GitHub. So this tutorial is good for any beginner or any intermediate developer who wants to get a full grasp of Git and GitHub. So if you're a beginner who doesn't know anything, this is the right place, and if you're an intermediate developer, you're also in the right place. So let's get into it. So what is the background information of Git? So Git was initially released in 2005. It is an open source distributed version control system for tracking changes in source code or any set of files. So you can use it if you're a developer, or you can use it if you just want to track changes in your files, okay? It is designed to coordinate work among developers or programmers. So you can use it if you're a programmer to coordinate work so that you work in a very systematic way. And then also it has a remote repository which is stored in a server, and also has a local repository which is stored in the computer. So if you're working with Git in your computer, what you'll be working on is the local repository because it is in your computer. And then when you're done with it and you push it, you'll be pushing it to a remote repository which is like GitHub, where it will be stored in a server, okay? So also Git helps you to keep tracks of file or code history. So you can keep track of your file. If you made changes, it will tell you. If you want to revert back to a different change, it will also enable you to do that. Okay, so Git does not allow overwriting each other's changes. So if you're working with Git, there's something called branching. So someone can work in a particular area of a project and another person in another area. So when you commit the changes and push, you'll find that there will be no possibility of anyone overwriting each other's changes, okay? So let's get to the advantages of Git. So what are the advantages of Git? It is fast and small, as most of the operations are done locally. So you'll just be using mostly the command line, but if you are someone who doesn't like the command line, you can use the graphical user interface. So it is fast because there are few commands, okay? Then you can also use it to back up. Chances of losing data are rare when there are multiple copies of it. So when you're using Git and you push something to your remote repository, you'll find that you can get it at any time. So even if you lose the data you have in your computer, you can just go and clone or pull it from the remote repository, okay? So there is security of your files and folders or code. So Git itself secures the files that you put in it, okay? And then there is easier branching. So branching is when you work on one project and you're different people. So you can easily create branches with Git so that someone works on a particular part of a project, another person on a particular part, and then you combine it, okay? Yes, so let's get to know the Git workflow. So what is the Git workflow? So you'll modify file from the working directory. So when you create your working directory, you'll modify it, and then after you are done with modifying it, you add the files to the staging area. So the staging area is where the files are kept after so you can see the ones that are in the staging areas and the ones that are not there. Then you can commit operations that moves the files from the staging area. So when you commit, now you move them from the staging area, okay? So then now you can push it to the remote repository. Yeah. So other developers can then later pull it to their local machine. So once you push it, if someone likes or is interested in the project, you can clone or pull it, okay? Nice. So let's get to the basic commands. So these are the basic commands that you should know in order to work with Git. So Git init. Git init will initialize the local repository in your computer. So when you are in a directory which you are working on, you can just write Git init and it will initialize the local repository, okay? Then you can say git add and then the file name. So for example, you can say git add index.html, or you can add everything. You can say git add dot to add everything. So this one will add files to the staging area, okay? So git add adds files to the staging area. Then the git status will show you the status of the working tree. So if you say git status, it will tell you the files that have already been put in the staging area and the ones that are untracked, okay? Then git commit -m initial commit. So this is used to commit it to the working tree, okay? So the -m, and then you see there's two hyphens and then there's something in it. So that is the message. For example, if you make a change in a file, let's say you modify the index.html, you can say git commit -m, then in the hyphen you say modified the index.html. So the things that are in the hyphen are what the message that you want to commit it with, okay? Then there's Git Push -u origin master. So this one pushes it to the remote repository such as GitHub. So when you push it, you will just say Git Push -u origin master. Then there's Git Pull. So Git Pull pulls latest changes from the remote repository, and Git Clone, so it will clone the repository into a new directory. So let's say you are interested in a certain project in GitHub, so you will clone it, then it will be in your directory, the one that you are currently in. So how do you install Git? So installing Git, if you are having Mac and Windows OS, you'll go to this particular URL. So this is a website where you can download it. It is HTTP Git. I recommend you use this. So once you're there, you will choose, if you are using Mac, you'll use the installer for Mac. If you're using Windows, you'll use the installer for Windows, and then you can easily set it up, okay? If you're using it on Linux, you will say sudo apt-get install Git, okay? That is for Debian. And if you're for Fedora, you say sudo yum install Git. Also, if you're for Windows, please, you can download also Git Bash. Git Bash is a command line which gives you a Linux environment, okay? It makes you to do some Linux commands on Windows. So I recommend you also download Git Bash, okay? So we're going to have a walkthrough on how we can get started with Git. So it is going to be a code along section. So we'll be seeing how you can do this in a real situation, okay? So I'm in this empty folder, so I'm going to open it in my terminals, and then I'm just going to say git init. So this will initialize an empty Git repository in this current folder. Then I'm going to open it in my Visual Studio Code so that you can create some files in it, okay? So I'm going to create index.html file. Then I'm going to create also another file called, let me say, my style.css, okay? So in my index.html, actually it is written init, so let me rename it index, okay? So I'll just say HTML, and then let me say put a header one and just say this is a heading, okay? Then I'm going to save this, and then my style, I'll just leave it empty. So if I come back here, I can say Git status to see what is in the working tree. So you see on branch master, no commits yet, and then untracked files, index.html and my style.css. So nothing added to commit, but untracked files present. Use git add to track. So I'll just say this. I'll say git add to add them to the working tree. So when I've done that, and then I check the Git status, you can see that changes to be committed, they've already been tracked now. So but there are no commits yet. So if I come back here and then I say that now let me have I later on put another heading, header 2, and say this is heading 2. Then I save this. When I come back to my command line and then say git status, you'll see that there is a modified index.html. So this is not changed, it has been modified, okay? So if I want to push it again to the working tree, I'll just say git add. Then now it has already been pushed there, so it is tracked now. So if I check git status, you see it has been tracked. Changes to be committed at this one, but they haven't been committed yet. So let's commit them. So we can say git commit. Then we need to pass a message and in between here, so we can say initial commit or even first commit. So when I run that, you'll see master root initial commit, 2 files changed, 5 insertions, create mode, that one. So they've already been committed. So if I say git status now, you see there is nothing to commit. Working tree, our working tree is clean. So let's say that now you can see if I'm in my Visual Studio Code, they say you a few seconds later initial commit. So they are telling me I'm the one that made this. So I can say here that now I want my header 1 to be even black, okay? Then let me say red, to be red, and then I save this. Then I come to my HTML and then I add it as a link. Then I say it is my style .css. Then I save this. Now when I get back to my command line and then I say git status, you see modified changes, index.html, my style. In index.html I added this link. Now even you can say uncommitted change, I added this link, and then in my style I also added this. So that's why they're saying that we've modified my style and we've modified index. I can say here that git add to add them to the working tree. Okay, now if I check git status, that these ones are modified but they need to be pushed. Okay, so they need to be added. So I say git to be committed. So I say git commit changed index.html and my style .css. Okay, so what is that there is just the message. So when I run this, they say changed index and my style .css. So 2 files changed, 4 insertions. So if I check git status, you see there's nothing to commit, working tree screen. So that's just the basics of it. Okay, so let's say we don't want my style to be pushed when I push it to the remote repository. So I just say touch.git ignore. Okay, git ignore, this is a file that will not, just as the name say, it will ignore some files and not make them to be pushed when we push to the remote repository. So here we've already created the git ignore file. So I can just say my style, the name of what I don't want, my style.css. Okay, so this one will not be. So when I say now, let me make some changes to my style.css. Let me add header 2 to our color of yellow. Okay, now when I get back to my terminal and I say git status to see what is happening in the working tree, you see they're saying changes not staged for commit, modified this, but untracked is this git ignore. So I can say git add everything using this dot. Then if I check git status, you can see now new modify is this git ignore, but modified new file is this git ignore, modified is this. So if I say git commit, then I say added git ignore. Okay, you can see now added git ignore, 2 files changed, 5 insertion, create more, that one, and git ignore. So if I say git status, you can see nothing to commit, working tree is clean. Okay, so the next part we're going to see is now how we can push it to the remote repository. Okay, so I'm going to go to GitHub. You don't have an account, you have to sign up. I already have an account, so this is my account. So I'm going to create a new, I'm going to create a new repository, and then I'm going to call it GitHub tutorial. And then I will come and just create the repository. You can have a description here. You can say this tutorial is for GitHub. Okay, GitHub and Git. Then you create a repository. Okay, so once you've created this repository, so these are some of the commands that you need to run. So we already initialized Git. We don't have to add this readme. We made commits. So we are just going to copy this git remote add origin this, so that you can link it up with that. So I'll just paste it here. Then I'll run this. Then now I'll say git push origin master. Okay, And then now we need to sign in. So my username is that. My password, I'll just put in my password. Then now you can see it is pushing it to the remote repository. So if I come and refresh this, you find that everything is here, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, that's how you can use Git and GitHub. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like me to make more videos, don't forget to subscribe and like. You can also share it with your friends. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.